Hi everyone, this is Emily Leiphart from Art from the Heart. Welcome to our fourth video for the Too Many Cards video series. We Are Memory Keepers is our generous sponsor today, and we're excited to be playing with the Happy Jig wire creation tool. The moment I saw the Happy Jig, I knew that my entire family would have a blast creating with it. We Are was ever so generous to sponsor our video series and sent us the Happy Jig starter kit with additional packs of neutral wire and colored wire. This video is part product review and part card making. It's quite long, so if you want to skip the product review section where I use the Happy Jig to create the shapes, skip to the 9-minute and 12-second mark to start the card making process where I incorporate the wire shapes into my card designs. I'm going to unbox this right now and start using it. This way you'll see how easy it is to use right out of the box. The packaging is very easy to open, and I love that I can peel it open without scissors. This kit retails for $25 US. In the kit you get 2.5 yards or 7.5 feet each of mint, gold, and copper wiring. It's a lovely trio of colors and enough to get you started. There's the all-important wire cutter, the jig itself, and the instruction manual. The catalog itself comes with 4 pages of instructions and 20 wire shapes, including a triangle paper clip that you could also use as a mountain, heart, arrow, ampersand, cactus, pineapple, leaf, camera, mug with steam, magic wand, pine tree or Christmas tree, bat, butterfly, French bulldog, flamingo, and the words cute, hello, love with a heart, happy, and thanks. There are many more patterns on the Happy Jig's Instagram page at We Are Happy Jig, and designers are always coming up with new shapes, so be sure to subscribe, like, and share. The lock on the lid is very stiff on my jig, and although I had a hard time opening it, it's probably a good thing, since I'm one of those people who would drop their jig or knock it off the table, and all of the pegs would fly out everywhere. So if I had a choice between too loose and too stiff, I'd definitely choose the latter. The colored wire that comes with the kit corresponds with the larger packs of wire. I'm very happy to have additional lengths of these particular colors because I think they'll be used quite often. We Are recently released wire that looks like striped baker's twine, and I definitely need some of that. I've linked to all of those colors below in my supply list so you can find it easily. The full list with photos will also be on my blog post for this video. Without reading the instructions, I'm going to attempt to create this coffee mug so I can use it on a card for the Coffee Lovers blog hop that is held twice a year. I simply follow the grid and place the appropriately sized pegs where indicated. To start, I place a medium peg at D20, a small peg at F22, and so on until finished. It's sort of like playing Battleship. Since I didn't read the instructions, I used a medium peg with a vertical slot at the top, but when I noticed that it needed to be at N24 where I start the shape, I needed to remove it from the top. However, I could have left it since it would have made no difference since it still works to bend the shape in the same way. You'll see here that I couldn't get it out, so I had to go to the instructions at the beginning of the booklet to find out how to remove the pegs. Simply use one of the large pegs to push the pegs out from the underside of the jig. It's very easy and you'll love the popping sounds. I'm going to fast forward through the insertion of the pegs. All of the odd lines on the grid are marked with a brown line so it makes it easy to see visually which line you're on, both horizontally and vertically or alphabetically and numerically. Looking at the instructions, I had no idea where to start, so I went back to the beginning where it says that the coordinates in blue represent the starting point. I should have known since that's also where the medium peg with the vertical slot is placed. I just wanted to be sure since there's a gold section indicated as well, but that's for a paperclip add-on. Now it's time to start creating my wire shape. I was pleasantly surprised at how soft the wire was and how easy it was to work with. I will speed through this part again and explain the challenges that I encountered and the remedies that worked for me. I chose the coffee mug to start because it had one of the simpler shapes and it was more open than a lot of the others. It was a good thing I started with this one because as easy as it was, a few of the pegs did go flying across the room. You'll see the first small peg come out of the jig as I round across the top of the mug towards the handle. I just reinsert it and continue. I also realized that it would be easier to unroll the wire first, which would give me a straight wire to work with. The manual actually recommends that you cut the required length from the coil as indicated by the instructions for each shape, instead of working with the entire roll as I've done here. For me, I'm not sure it would make that much of a difference, but it's worth trying. It's probably a matter of personal preference. Some of the pegs came loose as I was working my way around, while others stayed quite solidly in their holes. I would recommend holding down each peg as you work the wire around it. If the peg comes loose or flies out completely, your shape won't be nearly as smooth as it was meant to be. However, as you'll see later, this isn't always a bad thing. I do make constant adjustments to the pegs and the wire as I go along. When I'm done, I take the wire cutters and trim the wire at the top of the steam. This wire cuts like butter. Once the image comes off the pegs, you can reshape it. Now I take a large peg, remember to close the lid to the compartment, flip the jig over and pop out all of the pegs by pushing down with the large peg. I decided to make the magic wand on the next page since it's had a lot of curves in both directions. I wanted to test my skill, and I also wanted to try out the pretty pink wire. I had even more pegs pop out while making the wand, and a couple of them even hit me in the face, which was quite funny. Luckily, these pegs are plastic and so light so they didn't hurt, but for those of you who'd be concerned about injury, you could wear safety goggles. Reading glasses would be fine protection as well. Since the shape has a lot of pegs set closely together, I wasn't able to pull the wand off the pegs. It was easier to push the pegs out with the shape in place. Once the pegs fell out of the grid, the shape was released with it. I make some adjustments and trim off a bit of excess wire. Aren't these cute? I just love the smoothness of the wire. It sounds weird to say that the wire is smooth and soft, but it really is. I don't know how else to describe it. It has such a nice feel to it, which makes it even more satisfying to create with. So after 2 shapes, I'm completely addicted to the happy jig and feel compelled to make another. I decide to go for the French Bulldog because it's just so cute. I open the neutral wire multi-pack and pull out the dark brown wire. His nose is the starting point, but I found it difficult to see on the diagram because this one had several overlapping sections. I ended up having to stop and study it, and you'll see that I wound the wire in the wrong direction at first before realizing my image was not going to have ears. When I unwound the wire, it got a bit warped. I wasn't happy with this at first, but when the dog was finished, I liked his wonky look. In fact, I think he turned out even cuter than the version in the instruction manual. What do you think? So here are all 3 shapes in 3 different colors. Aren't they cute? I love them, and I could continue to make all 20 shapes in the manual without taking a break. It's really that fun. Now let's move on to the card making part. I'm using patterned papers from Pink Fresh Studio to create both my cards. I have the 12x12 collection for Let Your Heart Decide and the 6x6 paper pad for Be You. I've already cut a navy panel for the background on my coffee card. Now I'm deciding if I want to show a border or cut the top panel the same size. I'm going to die cut some words out of the top panel so the navy will show through anyways. Now I'm using some of the tab dies from MFT's Blueprints 27 to cut out some of the adorable graphics from one of the papers from Be You. This one has some coffee images, so I thought they'd be perfect embellishments, although I only end up using one of them in the end. The sentiment I'll be using is from MFT's Perk Up stamp set. The die I'll be using to add the detail to the panel is from the coffee cup dies. I'm going to die cut the word coffee 3 times in the upper left-hand corner so the navy paper shows through. Next, I'll stamp the sentiment in Altenews Industrial Diamond. I fussed around with the tabs a lot and even die cut other pattern papers for a shadow layer, but I didn't end up using them. I thought the best way to adhere the wire shape to my card would be to use Glossy Accents, since it's the strongest liquid adhesive in my opinion. I pour some out onto a scrap piece of paper and use the head of a pin to apply it. I'm only applying it to the sections that I know will be touching the paper. It's obviously not completely flat, so I just make note of which areas touch the paper and apply a significant amount of adhesive on those parts. This adhesive dries fairly quickly, at least quickly enough that it won't move after a few seconds. To speed up the drying process, I just hold it in place and lightly blow on it for a few seconds. Lastly, I attach the little heart with foam tape and my card is done. Doesn't the Wara coffee cup look amazing? We Are is so innovative in its products, and the Happy Jig is so unique. These shapes definitely make standout embellishments, and I'm going to be using these a lot. I start my second card by creating a little denim bow tie for the dog. I'm using a retired ribbon from Stampin' Up, and I tie a bow, then use an X-Acto knife to slide glue dots underneath the knot so it stays in place when I cut off the tails. I used MFT's A2 Rectangle Stack Set 1 to cut a panel for the background, and then I used the stitched rectangle from Blueprints 29 for the dotted mint panel. Now I'll stamp the sentiment from Puppy Kisses onto that top panel. I'm using Hero Arts navy ink to match the navy on the pattern paper as well as the bow tie. I use glue dots to adhere the bow tie to the card, but before adhering the dog to the card, I'm going to cut out a piece of coordinating paper to place behind it so he has a pink tongue. I use my tweezers and a glue dot to easily place that small piece of paper, and then I can adhere the dog in the same way as the coffee mug on the previous card. To add even more personality to the dog, I'm going to use googly eyes. In order to securely adhere the eyes, I stack 2 layers of foam tape so that the sticky surface will be both on the paper as well as the back of the googly eyes. The 2 layers of foam will also be high enough so that the eyes are level on the surface of the wire shape. Now my card is done. Here's another look at both cards that feature Happy Jig wire creations. I'm glad I kept the first card more simple since the pattern paper and die-cut words make the background busy enough, but it still complements the wire mug nicely. The popped-up heart is the only embellishment it needs. This adorable Dapper Dog card is already being claimed by my son. I do love how it came out, so I may have to make more of these in different colors with some of the other pattern papers in that collection. It'll be a fun project. We don't have a giveaway today, but I hope that you enjoyed this product review and the cards I created using the Happy Jig. As always, I love to hear from you, and your comments are greatly appreciated. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. Please head over to Kaylin's blog and YouTube channel using the link below to see her take on Wearer's Happy Jig. Supply links are listed below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my cards. Thanks so much for watching!